I'm Jack Draper. Shout out to QualityShot Tennis.
The two best players on the women's tour go head-to-head yet again. Iga Swiatek versus Aryna Sabalenka in the Madrid Open final. Sabalenka is looking to win her second Madrid title, joining a list including Serena Williams and Petra Kvitova as multiple winners. And for Iga Swiatek, it's a chance to complete her clay court collection, winning Stuttgart, Rome, and Roland Garros all twice. She's never won Madrid, so this is a huge opportunity for her. She didn't play it last year, of course, as well. For Sabalenka, as I said, chance to win it a second time, but also a chance to get revenge over Swiatek and potentially put down a marker and say, look, you know what? I'm a real contender, not only to beat Swiatek, but for Roland Garros as well. After winning the Australian Open, whoever wins this tournament will be the tour's leading title winner. So Swiatek's won 2 titles, Doha and Stuttgart. Sabalenka has won Adelaide and the Australian Open. So whoever wins this will be on 3 titles and nudge in front. Sabalenka, of course, with that Grand Slam, though, as well. Before we get into it, though, remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you are new, and also do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. This is going to be very, very, very good, I think. And the head-to-head does stand at 5-2 to Swiatek, and she will definitely be the favorite in this matchup, no doubt, because it is clay and it is outdoor clay as well. I know it's a lot quicker, the conditions, due to the altitude, which has been stressed a lot this week or last week and a half even. And Sabalenka has the type of serve that is going to cause anyone problems because of not only the altitude, but just her serve being the weapon that it is when she's making a lot of first serves and hitting her spots that she's been doing throughout this year so far. And also from the back of the court as well, she has that power, as we saw in Stuttgart. Yes, straight set victory, but there were moments in that match where you could see where Sabalenka could potentially have success against Swiatek, or did have success, but Swiatek was too strong. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the matchup as a whole. But before we do that, we're going to go through their matches so far at Madrid, look at how they've been playing, the opponents they faced, and then ultimately what I will do is break it down strategically and more tactically, looking at what might play out and give you guys my prediction on the results. So for Iga Swiatek, she's been very good. Both players have only dropped the single set on their way to the final. So for Swiatek, she started off against a grabber, in straight sets, straight set victory there. Same against Pera. Alexandrova was a bit of the banana skin, to be honest with you. Alexandrova pushed her. She saved a match point. Alexandrova in the second set tiebreaker went on to win that 7-3, and then, saved a match point even in that second set, and then took Swiatek to a tiebreaker, won it 7-3. Swiatek, though, took the decider 6-3, then beat Martic and Kudermetova, who is really her bunny. 4 love is the head-to-head there, and double breadstick to her as well. You could say and argue that Kudermetova and Alexandrova are 2 players in similar ilk and shape to Sabalenka in terms of their style of play anyway. So that's an interesting one. And then if we go with Sabalenka, we've got some good victories here for Saba. So you can see here a win over Castella, which is a really good win, by the way. I think Castella did very, very well in Stuttgart. And has just done very well this year generally. Also beat Osorio in straight sets, and Andreeva, the teenager who had a fantastic run, dropped a set against Sharif, where it looked like she might be in real trouble, mainly because she lost the first set 6-2, but recovered nicely to take the second and third set 6-2, 6-1. And then against Sakkari, a very good performance there. The first set was tight. She got a late break of serve, winning that first set 6-4, but then breadstick Sakkari in the second set. Sakkari's terrible form in semi-finals continues. I mean, it really does continue. Let's then have a look at the head-to-head. So you can see here Swiatek and Sabalenka last played at Stuttgart. That's probably the best one to look at, mainly because it's on clay. Yes, it's indoors, so slightly different conditions, but probably just as quick, if not potentially quicker, in Madrid, you'd say, due to the altitude. So that gives us a pretty good gauge of how the match might play out and also what to look out for. Then you can see here an exhibition. World Tour final, Sabalenka won that in 3 sets. Swiatek won the US Open one in 3 sets. Sabalenka actually was 5-3 up in that match and should have gone on to win it, I think. And in the end, didn't. Swiatek also beat Sabalenka in Rome and beat her in Stuttgart last year in straight sets as well. So the only thing for Sabalenka is that she's never taken a set of Swiatek on the clay. Now that is going to be the biggest thing for me to look out for, is can she take that first set? I do feel like that first set is pivotal to both players, but it's more so for Sabalenka. I think if Sabalenka takes the first set, she takes a lot of confidence into the second and a potential third set as well, just because she's never taken a set of Swiatek on the red dirt. And I do think that would be a mental boost. Let's look at it more from a technical standpoint. And before we do, actually, let's finish up talking about the mental side of things. So for Sabalenka, of course, there is this probably potential mental block against Swiatek on the clay, that Swiatek is just too strong on clay. And if they were to play on grass, I would say Sabalenka would be the favorite. If they were to play on hard court, I would say 50-50. Because Sabalenka is better on the hard courts, you'd say argue, and Swiatek's probably not as good. Well, she's definitely not as good on the hard courts as she is on the clay. I think she's she's kind of head and shoulders above the rest on clay, in my opinion. So for Sabalenka, that could definitely be something on her mind, or she could be thinking of it in a pretty different. I guess she could have a very different mentality towards this, which is, you know what, I've not really got much to lose. Not many people are expecting me to win. She's going into a huge favorite. She's, unbeaten since the start of Stuttgart as well. She, has been playing some pretty good tennis as well. And, I've got nothing to lose. Just go out there, play my game, enjoy it, and maybe she comes out on top. For Swiatek, is there pressure from a mental aspect? Probably not. I mean, a little bit, of course, because of the clean sweep of clay court tournaments in her career. But in honesty, this isn't the big one. The big one is Roland Garros. However, I think if she were to lose this, I think it does give an edge to Sabalenka going forward for the rest of the clay court swing. These two are the best players. I know Rybakina has beaten both players, and I know Krejcikova has beaten Swiatek. So those are two players that, they're definitely dangerous as well. I think Rybakina, though, on the clay is not as dangerous as we saw in Madrid with her losing. Krejcikova is, but yeah, again, lost pretty uncharacteristically in this tournament as well. These two are the most consistent performers. They're the ones that are now arguably, you could say, kind of head and shoulders above the rest, just because I think, especially even Sabalenka, I think she's going to be consistent on all surfaces. I think Swiatek will probably do the same, maybe not on grass. But the mental aspect, I think, the crowd are going to be mainly behind Swiatek, you would say. But I don't know. I don't think it's a case of a Spanish player like Alcaraz who's going to be playing Jan-Lennard Struff in the final, where they're going to be massively behind Alcaraz. He is from Spain. He is, a young prodigy, which, to be fair, so is Iga Swiatek. But I feel like with her, it's a slightly different, because she's not from Spain. She's from Poland, and she's a bit of a quieter type of character as well, potentially. But let's look at it more from a technical and tactical standpoint then, because that's what everyone wants to talk about. So I think, in Stuttgart, that it was an interesting match in the sense that I did think, and I actually did predict, that Sabalenka would win that. And I was wrong. I thought it would be the best chance for her to win against Swiatek on the clay, just because of the indoor conditions. I thought that would be perfect for serving. But I think what that also meant is that Swiatek found it pretty comfortable serving as well in those conditions. And for Sabalenka, she made quite a few first serves at 69%, but her first serve and second serve points won were really, really poor. I think 67% on first serve points won is, to be fair, not poor, it's kind of averaging, it's middling. Second serve points won, though, at 36% is really poor. And the other thing as well, and it's something to look out for, I don't think, generally speaking, she doesn't really come to the net much anyway. But against Swiatek, she definitely doesn't. I'm probably scared she's going to get past, but at times I think she does need to try and come forward and close up the net, have a bit of variety. And, I don't know whether she did that enough against Swiatek. I think she tried to go hammer and tongs against Swiatek, and on the clay, it's harder to do that than other surfaces, which are quicker, because she'll soak it up. She's got more time to soak it up, and then also counter punch as well, which she's so good at doing. But for Swiatek, in that match, she was serving at 78% first serve points won, 57% second serve points won. Only had to save the one break point, which I'm pretty sure was in the second set as well. Sabalenka taking it to a few juice games, but not managing to push for a lot of break point opportunities, whereas Swiatek, she opened up 6 breakpoint opportunities, took 2 of them. So something to look out for. Now, serving-wise, you would say that Sabalenka, and I'm going to take into account their last 2 matches. I think Sabalenka, the level she showed against Sakkari was quite a bit higher than the level that Swiatek showed against Sakkari. That Swiatek showed against Kudermetova, but I don't think that really matters. It's all about styles and how they match up. The positive thing for Swiatek is that actually Kudermetova is not a bad player to play before Sabalenka. They're actually they're a little bit similar. You'd say, of course, Sabalenka a couple of levels above Kudermetova, but the style is similar. Similarly, Alexandrova is also, as I said at the start of the video, a similar style. So that's a pretty positive thing for Swiatek. She's played players with similar types of games. For Sabalenka, Sakkari, not really a similar type of game to Swiatek, although both players very good at defending on the clay and also move extremely well on the clay as well. So what should Sabalenka do to win, and what should Swiatek potentially do to win, and what might we see? Well, Sabalenka needs to serve well and hit her spots. I think she needs to take advantage of the altitude. She needs to try and get as many free points as possible, as many unreturnables as possible. Swiatek is an incredible returner, but I think it's safe to say that if you hit your spots, and we've seen it with Alexandrova, for example, that if you hit your spots well enough and you serve consistently and you back it up nicely, which is what she did really well, especially with the 1+ plays. I think Sabalenka was a little bit cautious in some of those 1+ plays in Stuttgart. I think the serve 1+ wasn't maybe as potent or as ambitious as it might have been against other players. I think she's worried that she might potentially miss. I think she's got to try and dictate with the forehand as soon as that return comes back into play. I think she's got to be on her toes. She's got to make sure that she's on the front foot and try and keep the service games as short as possible and the points as short as possible in those instances, because there will be long drawn-out rallies at times where she will have to grind. But on her serve is where she needs to try and make sure that she's not engaging in those really long rallies. It will happen in some instances because of the second serves that come down, and Swiatek will attack those, no doubt. But I think that, I just think that Sabalenka has got to maybe not respect Swiatek as much. She's got to be a little bit more assertive, I think, behind her first serve. And also, the one thing that she, in my opinion, we're talking about serve return dynamic here mainly, one thing she didn't do particularly well against Swiatek, I thought, was attack the second serve effectively. Now, the one thing that you can potentially say as a caveat to that is that Swiatek's second serve is a very good kicker, and on the clay, it really does rear up. Sabalenka, though, is not particularly small. She's about 6'6'1", she needs to get on top of that, and she needs to attack it. She needs to, one, make the return, but two, it's got to be a return of purpose. She doesn't necessarily need to go cross court down the line and create an angle. She can even just go deep down the middle, but hard deep down the middle at Swiatek's feet, and that will make it really awkward for her. We saw Alexandrova do something very similar against Swiatek, and it was very, very effective. She attacked the second serve beautifully throughout the majority of that match. No returner. And no player really, no matter how good you are, the ball is coming back with pace on return at your feet. It's very hard to adjust to then get one, make good and clean contact with intent with your 1+ shot, but two, to actually make that 1+ shot. And there are a lot of mistakes from Swiatek because of that, forced errors, you would say. But from Alexandrova in that matchup. And the reason why I'm talking about that specific one is because that's the match that she struggled in the most. And there's a reason for that. Yes, she didn't play her top level, but also Alexandrova tried to take the racket out of her hand, and it worked for large periods of that match. So Sabalenka has just as much power, if not more power, than Alexandrova. And she is a more well-oiled machine, you'd say. So definitely something for her to capitalize on. She has to make sure she does. And on the first serve returns, she didn't make that many, I didn't think, against Swiatek, or many returns of purpose, quite a few short ones. She needs to make sure she is getting that ball back in deep to give herself as much of a chance as possible, because Swiatek, like Sabalenka, both players will be trying to look to dictate from the first shot after their serve and try to shorten the points as much as possible after serve as well. So Sabalenka is going to need to move and defend well as well. That's a really, really key point, I think. And her anticipation's got to be good as well, because if you anticipate well and you make sure to play the extra 1 shot, 2 shots, even 3 shots at times, then she is prone to potentially making a mistake, as most players are, even at this level. So something to bear in mind there. And I think Sabalenka, serving wise, the double faults, limiting how many double faults she hits is a given. But generally speaking, returns need to be proactive and need to be deep into court. Serves need to hit the spots. For Swiatek with her serve, a little bit alarming how she served against Kudermetova. Her first serve percentage was pretty low, but I can't see her doing the same thing. I actually think she prefers playing in, you would say, day conditions, but they're going to be playing at 6:30 local time, so that's going to be really early evening. Now that could potentially suit Sabalenka a bit more, because Swiatek, I don't think, from what I've seen, she particularly likes playing in the evening. However, it is still clay though, so take it with a pinch of salt, me saying that. Her serve, though, is, in my opinion, still not elite. And especially the first serve. And I think Sabalenka needs to try and take advantage, because those are the moments, those return points, those return games, where if she manages to make a big inroad, if she manages to break, it gives her the cushion, also means that she's really pressing and pressurizing Swiatek. And Swiatek knows, okay, right, I'm not going to have it my own way on my service game and get freebies and 3 points. In terms of the dynamic of the baseline exchanges, forehand to forehand, Swiatek has fantastic topspin on her forehand cross court. She's got the superior movement, so she's going to try and move Sabalenka around as much as possible. I'm sure she'll chuck in some drop shots as well into the mix. She tried to come to the net a few times against Kudermetova with varying success. But I think that's a good addition to add to her game, and she's been trying to do so, which is good to see. And yeah, I just think Sabalenka, forehand to forehand, she can definitely hold her own against Iga. She needs to be the one that changes direction first, takes the initiative, make Swiatek feel uncomfortable, make her defend a lot, and try and keep your composure and put away any short balls or anything that comes back that is attackable. And that's what Sabalenka needs to think about. There's no point playing it safe against Iga Swiatek, in my opinion. But yeah, interesting chat. Backhand to backhand, you'd say Swiatek's backhand misses less, but Sabalenka's it definitely has more power and penetration through the courts by the looks of it. So, yeah, a few interesting points to address. I don't think either player is going to come to the net much. I think Swiatek will at times when she gets the shorter ball. I think for Sabalenka, something that, yeah, she'll probably need to think about as well herself. But right, okay. So in terms of predictions, well, okay. So in terms of prediction, it's very, very hard to pick against Iga Swiatek. In all honesty, it really, really is. But I'm wondering whether I go with Sabalenka again and potentially be wrong again, because Swiatek is the overwhelming favorite. You know what? I'm going to go left field. I'm going to go Sabalenka. Sabalenka in 3 sets. She's won Madrid before. She obviously has some good memories as well of the tournament. So I'm going to go Sabalenka in 3 sets. Let me know your thoughts on whether you think that's right or not. I think Swiatek is the easy pick. I mean, most people will pick Swiatek, and rightly so, because she is the queen of clay. But I'm going to go Sabalenka in 3. Maybe we'll see something different. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you're new. Share the videos. And of course, do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Thank you very much, guys. See you later.